Will Howard gets dealt a bad hand. The Steelers get ready for their first preseason game in Jacksonville. The depth chart is out, and Aaron Rodgers shows support for Coach T. Here we go. First ever Locked On Steelers Squad show right now.
Wave those terrible towels. It's the Steelers Squad, sponsored by Gametime. Everything Pittsburgh Steelers every week. Breaking down all the big hits and game-changing plays from the Steel City. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. From the steel curtain to the next generation, the Steelers Squad Show starts now.
That's right. Here we go. This is the Steelers Squad Show right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. This live show, brand new, and we'll be coming at you twice a week. An hour preview during the week, and then right after the game, a live post-game show right here on the Locked On Steelers Podcast Network. I'm your host, Tyler Feldman, and look who's joining me on the Squad Show this season, former Steelers offensive tackle Wayne Gandy. Yeah, what an honor to have the 15-year NFL vet and former first-round pick on the show to talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers. Wayne, welcome.
Tyler, thank you for having me on. Glad to be on here with you. I was trying to find my terrible towel. I wanted to hang it on my shoulder to let the fans know I'm still black and gold, black and yellow around here.
Well, you've got the black shirt on, and the wall behind you with the lighting, it looks yellow in my eyes. It's not like it's not quite like the terrible towel I have behind me. I'm blocking it.
Yeah, I see.
But you've got some nice memorabilia up top. All those jerseys. Is that Wayne? Let's say Wayne. I got to check my eyesight, right?
Yeah. I got a couple of Hall of Famers up here, teammates of mine.
Let's get it. Can we get a little tour? May as well get a tour to start things off.
Sure.
15 years in the NFL. This looks incredible.
We got Isaac Bruce.
Oh, Bruce.
Myself.
Okay.
And you can see me being kind of both. I put myself between Bruce and Bettis.
Okay. Oh, beautiful. The bus.
You know,
we got to get the bus on a show here at some point.
And then I got one of my great friends over here, Hines Ward.
Love Hines.
And Dwayne Washington. A lot of Steelers around here.
That's quite the space. A little bit more special, I'd say, than what I've got behind me. But this will be special, coming at you twice a week. Training camp well underway at St. Vincent College up in Latrobe. Something, Wayne, I'm sure you remember well, and maybe we could hear some stories on this first show about your experiences up at St. Vincent College in Latrobe. It's also game week for the Steelers. They play the Jags Saturday night in their first preseason matchup. And it seems like with the Steelers right now, it's never a dull moment. As we tackle some of these headlines, Wayne, starting with the game's most important position, Will Howard out 3-4 weeks, injuring his throwing hand. What do you think about that situation? Obviously not great for Will. And for the preseason, you would have liked to have seen Will Howard get some formidable minutes in these preseason games to see how he would maybe compare up against Aaron Rodgers.
Especially in the circle back, when did the Steelers become the Dallas Cowboys? You know?
Oh no! They're getting
always. The Steelers used to be just a great franchise that was in the background, and now over the last couple of years, their fame has caught up with them. I'm excited about the season, and you're right with Will Howard, first year, regardless of what round you're drafted, especially. Now that you've cut the pre-games, this first game, second game, because you imagine that Aaron Rodgers, that third game, when you can get your starters out there, you're definitely going to try to do that. So Will Howard with his throwing hand, which anyone that tells you about hand injuries, basically they're just there for the year. It's one of those things, it's kind of like your foot injury. You can manage it, it can get well, but it just seems to always be there. And a young man like him trying to make the roster, being out what they expect, maybe 3 weeks. So basically that blankets the whole preseason. So no reps, not able to practice. It really puts him behind.
I do feel, though, that talking about Will Howard, the rookie, you brought in Mason Rudolph for a reason, and hopefully you'd like to think Aaron Rodgers stays healthy. When you look at that quarterback position with Rodgers now, Rudolph, Skylar Thompson also back end of that depth chart, what do you hope to see from Mason Rudolph in the preseason? And the little that I'm sure we see of Aaron Rodgers, because everything's been so positive surrounding Aaron Rodgers at training camp. He loves being a Steeler. He loves the history. He's loving Coach T. What do you hope to see? What do you hope to see from Mason Rudolph as he comes back? Because I felt like when he left, things were just starting to settle down for him in that Pittsburgh Steelers offense.
Well, I like to see Mason win his teammates back over. Really solidify that we are going to be good regardless of how Aaron Rodgers, because let's be honest, when you hit the mark really of about 36 as an athlete, injuries are always being managed. No one can fault you for having a simple where you just get knocked down and need to miss a quarter. That's just what age does to you. Now you're talking about the uncharted territory of being 40. I was fortunate enough to stay around to 39. And Tyler, I'll tell you, it was game time walking out the tunnel by the time that energy comes back. So with Mason, I would just say, win over the teammates, give them the confidence. He's been around some of these guys before. You're back. Now you need to give everybody in the organization this understanding that, yes, Aaron Rodgers is here to lead us to where we think we can go, a team that we have built to really see the promised land this year. But if something happens along the way, if I have to go in there, nobody has to be worried if they see Aaron grab his ankle. If they, if somebody.
Well, we can't, hold on. We can't speak that into the air here, Wayne. We can't be saying that out loud. We can think it internally. But, man, after seeing how he went down early last season with the Jets, gosh, that's scary. I do. Let me get your thoughts on bringing Aaron Rodgers in, and then maybe I'll share mine. But I'm curious to think, Wayne, you're 15 years in the NFL. Bringing in, the Steelers are just in this situation right now. It's a quarterback league. You got to find the right guy, and they're going through that process, and it's been tough post-Ben Roethlisberger. Bringing in Aaron Rodgers, what do you hope to gain from his addition to the team this season? What would be best-case scenario this year with Aaron Rodgers if he stays entirely healthy start to finish?
And that you took the first thing out of my mouth.
There we go. Okay.
First, that he can finish the season, that he can stick around 17 games. That's your first hope. The second is you're talking about a man who he's not at the door of retirement. He's already unlocked it and started opening. So all you can hope is that you've got enough talent around him. You went out and got enough receivers you can find. I'm quite sure talk about the run game, but that we can put him in those situations that he can win the game. You're not going to find the Aaron Rodgers of even 5 years ago now at this age. But what I can do is find that guy that in a 2-minute situation or in that key possession to go up by a touchdown, he is the guy that already know. I think the Steelers and the organization was trying to find that last year with Russell Wilson. It's kind of the same mentality, a proven guy that I can insert and put him comfortably in some situations that we know he knows how to manage.
Aaron Rodgers saying at training camp, quote, "It felt like I was talking to a friend, not a coach," when addressing one of the many positive quotes he's had about Mike Tomlin. Now, Mike Tomlin, no losing season. We've heard it ad nauseum at this point. But the Steelers, the Steeler way, it's not just to get to the playoffs, it's to win the Super Bowl. And right now, it's been a decade of a lull. Do you think Aaron Rodgers saying that he sees Coach T as more of a friend than a coach. I feel two different ways about that. On one hand, I love that. I love a coach who can connect on that level and can galvanize a team in that way and connect with them off the field, not just on the field. But part of me thinks with Mike Tomlin, you also need a guy who can discipline. I feel like he can be that, but that quote makes me feel two different ways. Do you get what I'm saying, Wayne?
Yeah. Well, we all know Coach Tomlin is a disciplinarian, but also a player's coach. I think that's the thing. He likes to connect with his guys. You always see him as more of not a father, but a big brother. Now with Aaron Rodgers, we're talking about the same age.
I think people forget that. That's okay.
Almost the same age. So this is not one of those 20-year age differences. This is, and I think that's what Aaron Rodgers is kind of alluding to, that very seldom are you going to be dealing with a coach similar to where he came with the Jets, that actually is in the same age bracket. But I think sometimes, as we know as friends, sometimes friends have your ear better than family or parents or even a coach, that he can walk over and feel like whatever Mike is going to say or come to him, he doesn't have to be defensive. He doesn't have to put up his guard. And I think the best thing about Aaron Rodgers is the city of Pittsburgh, Green Bay and Pittsburgh, original type fan bases, somewhere where football is the main thing. It stays the main thing. It never moves. It's not the bright lights as far as the city background. It is a football city where the cashier at the grocery store, the old man in the booth, everybody knows what happened.
My 90-year-old grandmother.
Yeah,
she's locked in.
So I think Aaron Rodgers is back to the community of football that he spent 17 years in Green Bay. That's what Pittsburgh gives to him. But I think him defending his coach and standing up, I think both of them, 2 Hall of Famers. I think that's part of it is too. Aaron Rodgers first ballot, Coach Tomlin first ballot when they do decide to retire, in my opinion. So there is this sense that, hey, maybe we shuffled the cards right and we can get finally, and you look at the moves, and as we're going to go along with the show, where I found somebody I can listen to. I don't have to be defensive. And that's what, as you get older, especially as settled and as great as Aaron Rodgers has been, I think him saying the friend means more of someone I can listen to that has my total accomplished respect, that I won't have this idea of even having to be defensive when they try to communicate.
Mike Tomlin, 53 years old. Aaron Rodgers, 41 years old. So that big brother, Wayne, that you said makes a whole lot of sense. A great perspective on what I hope to be a great relationship between Mike Tomlin and Aaron Rodgers throughout this entire season. We've got a lot more to come on this hour preview show on the Steelers Squad Show. When we come back, we'll go to the other side of the ball, talk a little defense, and maybe talk a little offensive line as well, because that's for Wayne. That's the position that Wayne knows best. Stay right here on the Steelers Squad Show on the Locked On Podcast Network. This episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. It's the best time of the year, NFL kickoff almost here, and that means fantasy football season is back in full swing. And this year, Yahoo Fantasy is turning things up with a fantasy football experience like never before. This year, the entire Locked On Steelers Squad Show is playing on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran making your millionth league. I've used Yahoo Fantasy for years, and the updates they're rolling out this month, they're wild in the best way possible. One of my favorite features, the new guillotine leagues. I have a bagel guillotine in the kitchen. Easily chops my bagel in half. This just dropped. Every week, the lowest scoring team is eliminated and the last one standing wins. Pretty cool. Also, whether you're all in on something new or like sticking to head-to-head leagues or jumping into public leagues, Yahoo's got you covered. So to celebrate 28 years of fantasy football greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days throughout the month of August. To kick it off, they just dropped Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues, a killer new way to play fantasy football on Yahoo, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated each week until there's one team left standing. Yeah, so great I get to say it twice. With the season right around the corner, now's the time to get your league together and give this new mode a try. If you're more into the classics, you can still play in head-to-head private leagues or join a public league. Stay tuned for more killer announcements and start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football now at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. Okay, as we welcome Wayne Gandy back to the show. Wayne, 15-year NFL vet, played for the Steelers from 1999 to 2002, and he currently has a cooler man's cave than anyone else watching right now. And if you've got something better, show me, because I bet you don't. Wayne, hopefully the Steelers will be better this season. I think the city of Pittsburgh right now, you've got the Pittsburgh Penguins, aging superstars like Evgeny Malkin, Sidney Crosby, Chris Letang. They're supposed to be a bottom 5 team next season. Of course, you've got the Pittsburgh Pirates, which, yeah, we don't even need to talk about the Pirates because they're exactly that. The Steelers, they're supposed to be that team year in, year out that we can hold on to and say that's a playoff team. That's a team contending for a Super Bowl. TJ Watt, will he ever win a playoff game in Pittsburgh? Signs that ridiculous contract, historic contract. That defense, you've got a lot to like about that defense. So much so that today at camp, safety Juan Thornhill had this to say about the Pittsburgh Steelers defense this season. Quote, "I think we have a chance to be the best defense of all time. Seriously." End quote. Wayne, I've met a lot of crazy people who have said a lot of crazy things, but I have a hard time believing that this will be the best defense of all time. Is Juan Thornhill correct? Do you think there's validity to what he's saying, or should we back off a little bit?
I think we should back off a lot. If you're talking about comparing Pittsburgh defenses, we're talking about at different points in this franchise's history where it was hard. You know, they were giving up like 8 points. There's been some times where throughout the years, they were just winning games 10-7 every week. I mean, that's what they hung their hat on. This defense does a great job of takeaways. That's the one thing that they have, was one of the top teams, if not the top team last year, of taking the ball away. What they're down in over the last couple of years is sacks. And as you mentioned, our man TJ Watt, sure, he's double digits, 12, 15 sacks a year, but now he has to find some other horsemen to ride with him as far as getting pressure on the quarterback. But a lot of exciting pieces. I can see why Thornhill is excited, especially on the back end in the secondary.
Look, I know we were both laughing at that statement, but last year, scoring defense 7th best in the league, allowing just 19.6 points per game. Tackling efficiency, top 4 in the NFL, 90-plus grade there. Run stopping, allowing just over 4 yards a carry. But the defense, the last few seasons, as the season has progressed, I feel like the defense hasn't been able to maintain that consistency. And that's my big focal point. You like to see tensions flaring on the field at training camp. Juan Thornhill, Jay Smith getting into it, back-to-back fights. Does that raise questions about chemistry? Or in your experience, do those battles at camp help maybe validate for Juan Thornhill that this defense could be a lot better than what people are thinking they could be?
Well, Smith and Thornhill, tight end, safety fighting, that you need one of those at least about every 3 days. to let people know that you're engaged. You're talking about two players is fresh to the team, trying to make their mark. Thornhill having the key position back there at safety that really, regardless of the personnel, the safety in this defense, is what makes it go. So big shoes back there in the field. But I think that in certain categories, certain times in different games, and that's why you went and got veterans, Darius Slay, Jaylen Ramsey. Not that you want to give up a talent like Amika Fitzpatrick to get it, but I think in those spots we saw it last year with the youth of Joey Porter Jr., and what a combination that could be right there when you talk about dime and nickel defenses to have Jaylen Ramsey, Darius Slay, Joey Porter Jr., big corners that play physical, Porter Jr., accepting that challenge that seems that people have put out there for him to be more in the run so far in camp, coming up, making plays, and to have a talent like a Jaylen Ramsey around him, a future Hall of Famer, to show him things. What key moves? Those are big moves, not just for this season, but for the future of this defense.
Mentioning a lot of key pieces on that defense. What about Cam Hayward? I mean, how important is it to have not just a veteran anchoring things on the line, but also a guy who clearly has the locker room and is one of the most impact players both on and off the field in the entire National Football League?
The Hall of Famer, and Tyler, I'm going to go ahead on because we got a long season. Me and Cam's dad were teammates, so get that out the way before you go making some jokes. I played with his dad,
Hey, we're just getting to know one another.
Yeah, we just filling each other out.
But I feel like you know me enough, and I like to shoot it straight, but I like to joke too. So I appreciate you understanding that and clearing the air and making that. You're setting boundaries early, Wayne. I appreciate
Yeah,
you.
I just want to make sure. I've been knowing Cam. Met him when he was about 10, and I thought he was 17, but Ironhead said he was 10. But what a Hall of Fame career he has put together, and still so impactful. It was making plays. I mean, he's defying age as well inside. Is still able to put pressure on the quarterback, push the pocket. You see him hustling. He sets the tempo, and that's what I love about him. He's trying to make plays out on the edge. He rarely you ever see a man that age. Most time you're trying to pace yourself. If a ball is run away from you as a defender, once you get in his age, you kind of just jog. He's actually running people down. He's leaving no excuses for the other 10 people on the field to play any less aggressive, and I can't say enough about just watching him put this Canton career together, and it would be just so great to see him be able to do something with all these. Now I got Hall of Fame type talent in the secondary. So with TJ Watts, I'm looking for Cam to have another big year, and this to really excite him with the opportunity. Sometimes that's all you need when you get to be a veteran, to look around and feel like, hey, I can still do this, and now I'm motivated to do it.
Cam's dad, Craig Ironhead Hayward, such a central piece, sadly passing away at a pretty young age, in which Cam has talked about and owned. I feel like he's brought so much more to the community, carrying on his father's legacy. I need to hear some stories, though, since we have you on. Shareable stories of what it was like to play with a football player like Ironhead. Anything that you're allowed to share, I guess. Stories that Pittsburgh Steelers fans would love to hear.
I will tell you this about his dad. He was a very funny man. He was as violent of a runner as he was. He was a big personality. A guy that 5 minutes after talking to him you feel like you must have went to high school with him. Like, have we been friends for a decade? I've only known you for 5 minutes. And what a tempo setter at that running back, just downhill in the kind of the golden age of running backs. When you think about the 90s and the different running backs when you ran the ball and the big back from Bettis to Natron Means, that was in style.
Chris Fumatu Malafala.
Yeah, Chris. But me and I here had a chance to be teammates with the St. Louis Rams at the time. But just a funny character. I don't know. I got to check the ratings of this show. I don't know if I could just go to talking about some of those things. So.
Yeah, we'll get the ratings reports, and if they stay low, this is only episode 1. We'll know that we need to go into your bag of historic stories.
But what a big personality he was, and a good teammate.
I appreciate you sharing that, Wayne. I'm sure a lot of Steelers fans watching appreciate it as well. Maybe we'll have to do story time with Wayne Gandy on the show at some point. Instead, right now, after the break, we'll head over to Wayne's World and figure out what's going through your head on that offensive line, a central piece to the Steelers team this season. If they want to be successful, the trenches better be covered. We'll head out to Wayne's World after this here on the Steelers Squad Show on the Locked On Podcast Network. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, or even getting prepped for football, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. I would be one of those friends because I don't tan. I burn badly. Just look at me right now. This is what it's like being in the sun. I'm putting sunscreen on. Don't worry. I've been using FanDuel to track my favorite matchups, and the app keeps it fresh with new daily promotions and fun ways to bet. It's easy to use, fast to pay out, and makes even regular season games feel like must-watch events. Whether I'm placing a same-game parlay or watching a bet ride into the 9th inning, FanDuel makes it feel like I'm part of the action. New to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. Back here on the Locked On Steelers Squad Show, broadcasting, streaming live on the Locked On Steelers Podcast Network on YouTube. We'll put the audio up wherever you can find your podcast and listen audibly after the fact. That's up to me. I hope I don't have problems handling that. This is show number 1, so just be patient with me as we figure this out. Someone who's been patient with me so far tonight, Wayne Gandy. Let's head over to Wayne's World. We need to get a graphic created because Wayne's World will be where the 15-year NFL vet, you've got it. Yeah, there we go. There we go. There we go. That 72 right up top is where we're going to lean on your experience in the trenches. The offensive line this entire season for the Steelers, critical. I just want your initial thoughts, what you've seen from training camp on this offensive line for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Wayne.
Well, we do know the one thing that kind of alarmed us is the injuries. And the injuries have kind of held back guys initially starting training camp, created a little sense of musical chairs. We definitely need to get Broderick Jones in as much as possible if he's going to hold down that left side of the offensive line. Zach Frazier, McCormick. The preseason, to me, games 2 and 3 for this offensive line is key. And on top of that, the commitment by Arthur Smith as the OC and the ability to run the ball. We want to talk about maybe the key to the season. The Pittsburgh Steelers running the ball last year. They were maybe 30th as far as yards per rush. Whatever factor that is, whether you want to take O-line, commitment to the run, getting behind in games. What we do know, to me, the offensive line has always been the true consummate part of Steelers' success. Not just saying that because I was part of it, but the way the Steelers want to play football. It starts with the ability to, a lot of times, dictate to the defense by creating this idea that we'll run the ball anytime. Now we have to have the personnel and the commitment. And when we talk about Aaron Rodgers at his age, the key to having any veteran quarterback is the ability to keep them in third and short. You actually have to kind of keep a veteran like Aaron Rodgers like a rookie. Those are the two key times in a quarterback's career that you have to create third and three, where, and that's where the tight end, Darnell Washington, those guys. And I did read a rumor they might move him over to tackle, but I think it's too late in his career to try to get him to build that mentality. But what I like to see in the preseason is just establishing the run. No more Najee Harris. So we got to find who are we going to hang our hat on, and we will see.
Jaylen Warren, Caleb Johnson, the two running backs. I'm keeping close watch on Saturday when the Pittsburgh Steelers play their first preseason game in Jacksonville. It's a young offensive line. I don't know if people realize this. Jones, Frazier, McCormick, Fatanu, all draft picks in 2023 and 2024. The NFL is a young man's game unless you're Wayne Gandy, 15 years in the league. At those positions, though, that youth, you'd like to think as they progress, 2023, 2024, that you figure things out. How long did it take you to make that adjustment to the NFL game? Obviously, the game's changed a bunch, but it's an important role to play on that offensive line, Wayne.
Well, I think that the key to them is they're in the same system again. In my first 5 years in the league, I had 3 different offensive coordinators.
Wow.
So a lot of times it's one of those things that not just changing head coaches, but the coordinator, especially when it's a different scheme. Sometimes you have the break of coordinators changing, head coaches changing, and everything stays the same. But this year, with these 3 guys, just like with Broderick Jones now, he young, but now I'm almost starting over, moving from right to left tackle. Somewhere I think he can excel. I really do believe he has the skill set, the body type to do it. And this offensive line, McCormick, Frazier, I think they have the mindset now. It's about Arthur Smith committing to the run. We've seen a lot in the last couple of years where as soon as we only get 2 yards, we go to 5 wide. Tyler, you know I'm telling this. As soon as
look, my grandmother's been telling me this for years. She can't take it anymore.
Yeah.
She's always like, I can run farther. Where's the blocking?
As soon as it's second and 8, we go to throwing the ball. And it has to be a mindset where this young – and what you don't get a lot of times, people never understand since we're in Wayne's world.
Yeah, I know. It's pretty nice in here.
When you abandon and run, it starts creating a mentality. And I wouldn't use the word SOFT, but it takes your offensive line and the attitude of that personnel group, and it kind of softens it so that when you do dial up the run, my mentality is not there about performing in that way. So it's not just a commitment to run for the yardage. It's building an attitude. And definitely, as you said, in the preseason, Jaylen Warren, Caleb Johnson, we're talking about 2 guys now having to have the pressure of being the starting running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers. You know how much that's the spotlight, his performance, every yard, every, Johnson, Warren, especially Warren, great out on the edge. We've seen the explosiveness. I think that's what we're hoping for, a little more explosiveness than Harris, who's a hard nose, but it didn't seem like he gave you a lot of chunk yards. and he was kind of one-dimensional when it came to the pass game. So hopefully you create this combination between Warren and Johnson. But up front, it starts with the mentality that we're going to block people. We're going to be on the ground. We're going to be physical. So if you just came here to pass block, you have to kind of change the mentality. And the only way to do that is to actually hand the ball off and put the pressure on these guys to execute.
Part of me feels like Najee Harris was a victim of the system and did play well despite that. I almost feel like because there hasn't been a tremendous rushing attack and the offense hasn't really clicked post Ben Roethlisberger, that the pressure should be off in all areas. What's there to lose? I mean, what have you seen the last handful of years that makes you think that the pressure should be on? They haven't had a ton of success running the football. There's been different quarterbacks in and out. There hasn't been that stability at that position. Stability is key, but also talent is key at that quarterback position. It translates to the running back, and it translates to the offensive line. My biggest concern right now, I'm excited to see Jaylen Warren play. I'm excited to see Caleb Johnson run with the rock. My concern is Broderick Jones. To your point, switching sides, but also dealing with another injury, lower body, soft tissue injury right now. Groin injury is pretty much the focus. Recent training camp practice that happened. Mike Tomlin saying he's day-to-day. You got to be healthy up front, and you need that consistency because if you're dealing with an injury from training camp through the rest of the season, well, the season's only getting longer. And so I'm excited. I feel like not having that pressure will only help all of these different positions because there hasn't been a ton of consistent success with the Steelers offense. What do you think, Wayne?
I think that I'm excited about the pieces they brought on offensively, the opportunity for these young guys like Warren to really make his mark. If you're ever going to make your mark, here's your opportunity to make your mark in the NFL, having the keys to the car. And I think that you brought in a DK Metcalf because the one thing the Steelers really since Antonio Brown, they haven't had that guy to force the defense to keep the safety out of the run game. Now you bring in the possibility of some deep balls down the field, and we'll get to the receiver core in a second. But with this offensive line, it starts up front, and you pointed out a great thing. These guys basically are in their third year now with the growing. It doesn't get any better. It's one of those things. It's one of those manageable things that you can play with. But growing injuries is something that almost want to sleep for 2 or 3 months. They don't want you to touch them. So where Broderick Jones and trying the reps he needs, when you look at the rest of the offensive line and what Aaron Rodgers is going to need, he's not going to get out of a sack.
No, and there's no time to hibernate.
So you don't have that comfort that, hey, I can play on the fringe. No, you got to be secure and make sure that the guy is nowhere close to Aaron Rodgers. So how do you do that? You try to run the ball. Hopefully, Broderick Jones. I did it my first year. I played right tackle. I started, we played 16 games. I think I started maybe 10, 11 at right tackle. Maybe for a quarter, they would let me go over to the left. You find a different athlete. You find different situations. You're used to more of a bigger physical. Now, that's not every team because, with Pittsburgh, some of the great sack masters they've had comes from that right side of the offensive line. But Broderick moving over is going to be a big deal, and we need, and I can't stress that, we need him back, and we need to figure out how to get him as healthy as possible by September, the first week of September.
There's no time to hibernate for 2 or 3 months with the Steelers offensive line. We can't afford that right now. Oh, man. You mentioned Antonio Brown. It's always tough for me because he's such a polarizing figure off the field, and he's become even more polarizing post-career. The triple Bs, Ben, Brown, Bell, I always say this, they never won a Super Bowl together. And that always frustrated me. But it goes to show you that you need the right people in the locker room, not just the right people on the field. And at the wide receiver position right now, I think there's a lot of questions. Like, you got DK Metcalf, but you haven't, as you said, had that deep threat since really Antonio Brown, like that consistent, like, I've got you. You had some good pieces through the last handful of years, and there's no disrespect there, but I'm waiting to see some guys pop off here on the outside.
Yeah, we have to start creating the threat. And you watch games, and I think what people need to, if you go back into your mental Rolodex, you never saw receivers even behind the defense. It's not like the quarterback was missing them deep a lot of times. They didn't, they were not capable of getting the deep ball. And I think with DK Metcalf, the offense, Arthur Smith, it's a play action kind of mentality. He's the kind of guy that makes, and you need that. And I think that's why I mentioned Antonio Brown. You need big plays that really wasn't supposed to be made. You need those easy touchdowns sometimes, not just for the scoreboard, but you have to make the defense feel like there's somebody that I have to keep my eye on. But where are we going to go? That is the big question of the preseason. Who's going to step up to be on the other side, in the receiving core? Because having one doesn't help. Most things, just like on the defensive side, pass rushers usually come in combos. Usually one of them is more recognized, but the other guy on the other side usually benefits. It's the same thing in the receiving core. Most times throughout history, when you talk about there are a duo. So even if you have a DK Metcalf, where is the other guy on the other side? And that's what these 3 weeks, these 3 preseason games should reveal.
Deontay Johnson was a deep threat, I'd say. George Pickens. You had some guys that could be the guy on the outside. I still go back to the quarterback position, and I hate to do that, but they've got to solidify that position. You got Aaron Rodgers this year, Mason Rudolph. Those are carryovers. Those are holdovers. That's like a plane in the air. That's a holding pattern. You got to find the guy to really take that leap to be a Super Bowl contender. When we come back, we'll see if that contention kicks off in the right fashion. The Pittsburgh Steelers playing their first preseason game down in Jacksonville, beautiful Jacksonville, Florida, this upcoming Saturday. We'll preview that matchup, what Wayne will be looking for in that game in particular, coming up next here on the Locked On Steelers Squad Show. And we're back. Wayne Gandy, Tyler Feldman, the Steelers squad, just 2 of us. I'm not sure you could necessarily call a pair a squad, but that's what we are tonight. My goal is that we grow as this show and this season progresses. We'll wait and see, but maybe there will be some fun surprises. What surprises will we see Saturday night in Jacksonville? 7 Eastern, 6 Central, wherever you're watching the game from, whoever you're rooting for, Jags, Steelers. Wayne, just initially, what do you hope to see from the Pittsburgh Steelers preseason game number 1 in Jacksonville?
Well, as you know, and I know with that first preseason game, whether it's 2025 or 1968, it's always based on who's playing, and how long they're going to play in the game. What parts are back. When you look at the Steelers, you got 12 starters back. I think 7 on offense, 5 on defense. Got a lot of moving parts, but you go in a game where the Cam Haywards, TJ Watts, those veterans are not going to play. So what you're looking for from your young players, this was a good game, as we mentioned from in the top of the hour, where a guy like Will Howard, we would have got to look at him along with Mason Rudolph. You imagine that Aaron Rodgers, even if he
plays the whole game, is that what you said?
Yeah, he might not finish the first drive. It might just be he hand the ball off. But in first games, a lot of times it's based on, for me, just turning on, seeing the operation, the concepts. Are the younger people, the younger players, the first, second, third year guys, what is their operation? The concept, the conditioning, those kind of parts, because a lot of these people are fighting for jobs. Going down to Jacksonville, it's going to be hot. I'm in Atlanta, and we've been hot here for about a month, so I can just imagine down in Duval County, with Jacksonville is going to be hot. Or I think are they playing this year in Gainesville? Maybe.
No, it's at Everbank Stadium.
It's still in Jacksonville.
Yes,
they're planning to build a new stadium here soon.
Yeah, I think they may need that there.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be as glorious as the one that's in Atlanta, Mercedes-Benz. That looks unbelievable. Hey, I'm in Austin. It's hot here. You got to figure out ways to deal with the heat. The NFL coming out today that sniffing salts no longer allowed. So find different ways to elevate your game in the preseason. Look, when I'm watching a preseason football game, I like to pull up a depth chart, and I like to watch special teams. Like who are those young guys that are going to bring the energy, that are going to bring the boom, that are going to make a difference? Wayne, are there any young guys, rookies, that maybe you're keeping an eye on Saturday night? And also, maybe before you answer that question, can you take us back to your first preseason game? Do you remember the nerves or what you were feeling, for that rookie year? Man, first round pick. Do you remember? Set the stage for us. I'd love to hear.
Well, I try to keep this a secret.
No longer.
But since you're asking, I'm going to have to. First preseason game, at that point, my rookie year, we were the LA Rams. The last year we were in LA before we moved to St. Louis that time. We go to Green Bay, Wisconsin. I was the first round pick, but at that time, Jackie Slater was at the right tackle. Clarence Jones, they had at left tackle, and coach said, well, I'm going to send you in the second quarter. And I was thinking, okay, I got time to get settled. About the fifth snap into the game, Jackie Slater at the time, like I said, was at right tackle. He gets hurt. He comes out. Now, I think he was hurt, but at the point, Jackie was 40. I run out onto the field, and I break the huddle. I turn around. Reggie White.
Oh, my gosh.
Of the ball. And I think I'm going to leave it right there for you, Tyler, about what happened during that play of meeting the minister and being baptized. So my first play was not that great, but, hey, I got that out the way.
Hey.
You want to get the interception. You want to get it out the way early so you can get on to the good stuff.
Seems like you've been telling people for years you went to church your first NFL game. Met the minister, got baptized. I feel like that maybe eases the pain that you encountered.
Yeah, it makes
what a great story.
Better.
What a great story. That's so cool. Let's figure out which rookie is maybe going to have a similar experience. I think that's hard to replicate. But are there any young guys on this squad that you're like, man, I need to see what this guy's got in this first preseason game?
Well, I really keep my eye on the first round pick. I know that's just being obvious, but as we talked about with Cam Hayward, just like an Aaron Rodgers, you're going to need that new energy inside. And with Derek Harmon, that's what I'm looking for, because we need. I was still with a Casey Hampton, one of the greats to ever do it. Young guy got in there and just dominated. As much as the offensive line needs some support and help, needs to come around, the defensive line needs some depth. and they need some young energy inside. So even though it's like I said, it's always obvious to say the first round pick, but for this situation, I really want to see what Derek Harmon brings to the field.
Derek Harmon signed a 4-year rookie contract worth nearly $18 million with the 5th-year team option. Michigan State guy, Big Ten guy, knows that physicality, learning from a veteran like Cam Hayward, as you said. This week, though, today in particular, there is a report that Harmon is dealing with a minor injury that could cause him to miss practice. Mike Tomlin described it as just minor things associated with the rigors of training camp. So my hope is that we do get to see a little bit of him, but it seems like they may be a little cautious here, Wayne. But that's just football. How do you the day-to-day of dealing with those football injuries? That's got to be something that you have to adjust to as well, huh?
Yeah, definitely. It's one of those. I mean, we're starting here and we're excited, but we still have to keep this excitement going for a whole nother month to get to some real football. And the season is not won in the preseason at all. Making the roster is not on Saturday for most of these players. We're talking about pro football where your 53-man squad, really about 40 of them are already solidified.
Yeah.
But to Derek being a key part, as I said, I really feel like he's going to be that part for the defense that's going to get mixed in with those big names. And Coach Tomlin being around almost 2 decades as the head coach, I'm quite sure that stands out for him because you don't want to get into a musical chair. And right now, you almost, just like the players, you kind of want to get through this first preseason game. It doesn't matter whether you're a rookie or you've been in camp. You want to get the game. You want to play it. You want to get those couple of days off and start venturing towards that the season each and every day is getting closer. And that first preseason game is that indication that, okay, we're almost to the season. You can't see it right now in training camp, but that first preseason game is your first indication that the season is about here.
The Steelers' first preseason game Saturday night at Jacksonville. This being our first Locked On Steelers squad show. Wayne Gandy, Tyler Feldman. Wayne, since it is our first ever show on the squad, right now a 2-person squad, hoping to increase the squad numbers as the season progresses, like I said previously. Maybe let's end this show tonight with some early season predictions.
Ooh, okay.
Mike Tomlin hasn't had a losing season in forever since chocolate was invented, since people were enjoying Hershey's chocolate in central Pennsylvania. Do they make the playoffs? Can they win a playoff game? Is this a playoff winning team to start the season?
Haven't won a playoff game since 2017. I want to say 2018.
Feels like since chocolate was invented, Wayne. Feels like forever. That is long. That's like in dog years when you're a Steelers fan.
Well, you have to, as a Steeler faithful, believe that the moves on the offseason was to make the playoffs in a tough division when you talk about the Baltimore Ravens and the Cincinnati Bengals. No disrespect to Cleveland.
Okay. Sounds like you're disrespecting Cleveland.
Well, I'm just saying.
You're allowed to on this show. You're allowed to on this show.
The one
the
show
Browns.
I'm allowed to be that way for. But your hopes when you look at the division, you have to keep that wild card spot. I mean, let's with the teams in your division, you're talking about a division that literally can always put in 3 teams. When you talk about those 3 teams, I think you even built your secondary imagining yourself in the playoffs and the teams that you're going to play down the road and their ability to get the ball down the field. I think that's what your secondary was built around. So when I look at this team, I definitely believe they can get into the wild card position. And with if Aaron Rodgers and his health, that's what you actually brought him in for, that situation, and try to get that monkey off of Mike Tomlin at least in winning a playoff game.
I'd love to see Mike Tomlin win a playoff game because I found myself the last handful of years, great, not a losing season. Like, what gives? And, if he went elsewhere and the Steelers didn't keep him, he'd easily get another job if he wanted it. The Steelers just love to have the same head coach for as many years as possible. That's the Steeler way. I don't think in the modern era of football that's necessarily the best way. I think the Steelers are getting to a point that maybe they should consider going a different way. But yeah, they're in a tough division. And the other two teams that I see better than the Steelers right now have better quarterbacks. And I keep hammering this, but it's a quarterback. I mean, look at the teams that have competed for a Super Bowl. They've got the guy under center or in the shotgun who can make plays. And maybe that can be Aaron Rodgers. If we can get an 80% version of Aaron Rodgers and he stays healthy, I think that could win a playoff game. I don't think that's crazy, but I have serious doubts about if he can do that. That's how I feel. I don't see them winning a playoff game this year. Maybe we can clip this and when they do, say how wrong I was. But for me, I'm still waiting for a change at that position that moves the needle. I'm in Austin, Texas. Boy, I would love to see maybe Arch Manning, depending on the type of season he has. I would love to see a quarterback that can be that guy. Steelers haven't found that post-Ben. Part of me feels like Ben could have done a better job of grooming the next guy. But the Steelers also didn't put that guy on the team. You had Dobbins for a hot second, who I thought was understanding the offense, and then he went elsewhere and had a little success. That didn't shock me. The timing was just off. A lot of big questions, Wayne. A lot of big questions with this Pittsburgh Steelers team. And I love that we have this show because with Aaron Rodgers, it may be a little bit of a circus this year, Wayne.
I even mentioned, like, when we become the Dallas Cowboys, in the sense of the different stories that seem to follow the tagline with the Steelers. It used to be the coach and the quarterback. Now it is just a plethora of different personalities. And you are correct to have that apprehension. Long season for Aaron Rodgers, and that's why we talked about Mason Rudolph and where is he and how can he command this team, because you have to imagine that he will be called upon at some point. And does he have it in him? We do not know, but it's going to be a long road, and it's a tough division. And that's why I didn't even try to say goal. A lot of times you go in the season, your first goal is to win the division. Well, it's hard to say that with this roster and the other teams in this division.
It's hard to digest that too as a Steelers fan, because the goal should always be to win the division. Man, I would love to see the second coming of Mason Rudolph, the mature Mason, double M at the quarterback position. Ideally, we don't see that, and Aaron Rodgers accelerates and figures things out on the offensive side. But boy, a lot of great storylines going into this Pittsburgh Steelers season. And I can't thank you all enough for joining us here on this inaugural Steelers Squad Show. Wayne, any final thoughts before we sign off tonight?
Tyler, I'm just glad to be in this seat with you, and I'm looking for an exciting season. We won't be short on topics to talk about.
It's hard to be short when you're in the room. That's what I like to say. I don't think we'll ever be short.
So we're here, and I'm ready to go, excited to be part of this program.
The feeling's mutual. Thank you so much for joining us on this live stream. A reminder, you can listen to the audio of tonight's show on the Locked On Steelers podcast feed, wherever and however you podcast. Also, be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. That's how Wayne and I get paid for doing this. If you don't want us to get paid, don't tell us. Just don't subscribe. But you should subscribe, okay? And next time, I've got to figure out the comment section. A bunch of friends, family, colleagues asking why they can't comment on the YouTube live stream. I will figure that out. And if we can't, it's not on me. If we can, it will be resolved, okay? We'd love to hear what you're thinking during these live shows, so I will figure that out. But until then, that'll do it for this inaugural edition of the Locked On Steelers Squad Show. Be sure to join us live immediately following Saturday night's preseason battle between the Steelers and Jags. For Wayne Gandy, I'm Tyler Feldman saying good night, and here we go.